We're in real time talking about real stuff. Before we get started, I want to talk about some real news that broke this week on in the NFL.
Rutledge, tell me.
So, as it says on NFL.com, which was posted around 4 o'clock this afternoon, proved a possible playoff instead of being 14 teams having 16 games cannot be played due to COVID-19. In the event the league is forced to take such action, it will not reseed teams, according to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. The proposed scenario would only become reality if the league cannot first complete the meaningful games rescheduled in a possible Week 18. Essentially, playoff expansion will only come about as a third option in the event the league cannot complete the 256-game seasons within 17 weeks or within 18 weeks, the 18th week added solely to complete the 256 games prior to postseason play. Connor, what do you think of all of that going down?
You know, it's a march to 256. I think that the NFL is definitely really good at collecting money. And if the NFL needs to add a couple more playoff teams, then they should do that to make sure that they have their money. So that's what I think about that, Rutledge. Any thoughts, anything you want to share about what we're going to be talking about tonight as it comes to the NFL and maybe some college football?
So actually, thanks, Connor. The reason I really wanted to break that headline is because we've got a lot of NFL stuff talking about tonight. We're going to go into State of the Shield, and we're going to spend time talking about the NFC South, because Saints-Bucks was a big headline this weekend. Of course, for all of you not knowing, it's now Tuesday night here on Twitch at 8 o'clock. We are now live on Tuesdays. We're also on YouTube, Friends Stream Sports. We're also out there on podcasts, but we've moved to Tuesdays, so welcome to Tuesdays. As well as the NFC South, we're going to talk about the playoff bubble, which is why I wanted to break that headline. And we're going to talk about in college football, very consistent number 3. And then we're going to talk about kind of what the reason college football is so unbalanced. So we're playing Panthers, Falcons, or as we like to call them, Rutledge's own and Dem pounding cats of the Panthers. And we're in Charlotte, North Carolina with Connor as the Falcons. And I think we look like high school teams tonight. Connor, what do you think?
Most assuredly. And I think we did that on purpose to be high school teams. So, yeah, I'm all about it, Rutledge. And we're in Charlotte, at least virtually speaking, and we're ready to ball here. And I'm feeling good that I'm going to actually beat you tonight.
I know that last time we played this game, Connor watched Julio Jones go everywhere. A bunch of our viewers called me out on not even just stop using the slant, but Julio Jones catches everything. So I'm ready for you, Connor, as Christian McCaffrey takes a tackle in the backfield. So let's dive into the NFC South. So Saints-Bucks played this weekend, and we're going to break that down in a minute, but we wanted to take as we go division by division and break down the division. We're going to go from the bottom to the top. So who do you got at the very bottom of the NFC South, Connor?
I have Atlanta Falcons here. It's been a real heartbreaker this year to be a Falcons fan. They've lost a ton of close games. 4 of their 6 losses have come by 1 touchdown or less. The offense, though, still pretty capable. But their running game has been very suspect. So Matt Ryan's been doing a lot through the air, and their defense has given up about a little under 28 points a game. So Atlanta Falcons are not very good, and I think that they could turn it around, but once you lose enough games throughout the course of a season, you really start to see the wheels come off. So what say you, Rutledge?
Oh, well, first of all, I'd like to say welcome to our viewer back again this week, Stephen Kicklighter. He says that the high school team could beat the Falcons, but he's back with us again. Connor, he participated a lot last week. I want to say that the new leadership for the Falcons is working, though. They're currently 3-1 in the last 4. They've got a really sort of tough, and as we go through these teams, we're going to talk about what we think their eventual record's going to be. So I'll give mine, then Connor will give his. They've got a really kind of tough run going for them. They have their schedule is Saints and Bucks twice. They have the Chiefs. They play the Chargers, and the only thing I think exciting for the Falcons this year is when they play the Chargers, that's where we'll learn who Justin Herbert really is. But Todd Gurley only has 584 for the year, 3.7 yards a carry. They need to do a better job of scoring because they don't complete passing TDs and getting some defense going. But I wouldn't blow up this team. I think they might beat the Bucks, though. I'm going to make that bold prediction early. I think the Falcons beat the Bucks at least once this year. So with that take is hot. It's Hotlanta hot, Connor. That's how hot that take is. So with that, I'm going to say I have the Falcons with their schedule with a possibility of beating the Bucks, but they can't seem to score, and Todd Gurley is doing nothing. I'm going to put them finishing 6-10. What do you have them finishing at?
You know, I don't see them getting 3 more wins. To be perfectly honest, throughout the end of this season, I think the Chargers game is a very winnable game. As per usual, Matt Ryan throwing a pick.
Connor coming in with the early pick, early pick for early time. Chargers is a very, very winnable game. Don't think they'll pick up any wins off the Bucks. Got the Saints. The thing about it is the Panthers, the end of their season, especially if we go to 16 team playoff, the Falcons are going to be playing a lot more teams that are going to be playing for a lot more than just pride, and the Falcons are going to be playing for pride and for that high draft pick slot. So I'm seeing a 5-11 finish for the Panthers, not 6-10. Okay. Yeah. So 5-11 for the Falcons, you're saying?
Correct.
As the Panthers scored on you.
Pardon me. 5-11 for the Falcons.
5-11 for the Falcons. But as we have that touchdown by Rutledge early based off the Connor pick, we are going to go into them Cats that just keep on pounding for the Carolina Panthers. Connor, I have kind of a heated take here, so I want you to start because I feel like you're going to be nicer to the Panthers than I am.
New coach, new quarterback, only one real notable win. Their only notable win was over the surprising Cardinals. They have, they've got some good players, but even with Christian McCaffrey, they are ranked 17th in terms of rushing yards per game. I understand that Christian McCaffrey is more than just, your traditional running back and does a lot out of the backfield. But, the Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater he's not going to get you to the promised land. So I think that the Panthers are they don't have a lot of great personnel. They do have more winnable games coming up, which I'll let you, Rutledge, share a little bit before we talk about final records and things like that. But I don't have a good sense on the Panthers, even if they are to pick up a few more wins, just due to their lack of super real quality personnel.
Well, I'm going to say I don't understand the world's infatuation with trying to make Teddy Bridgewater work. I never understood it when he was at Louisville and they beat Florida in that bowl game. I never understood it when he was at Minnesota and they tried to draft him, and I still don't understand it now. Although he's 79% accurate, 71% accurate for the year, he's thrown 11 TDs and 6 picks, so it's just very pedestrian. They have Christian McCaffrey, who in my opinion should have been a true Heisman contender if Stanford was better when he was in college. They hung him by the cheeks. They beat the Cardinals, but Cardinals are overrated. So overall, the whole entirety of the Panthers, they're not as good as the internet wants to make them sound. They're only 44% for getting first downs. The only thing I think the Panthers have going for them is if they beat the Saints late, because they play the Saints on the 3rd of January, which right now is the last week of the season. So I think that's about the only highlight for them. I see them in their next 7 games going possibly on that maybe 4 for 3 because of schedule, because they play a lot of the NFC least. I could once again go with they could possibly beat the Bucks, but I have them finishing at 6-10. Or no, excuse me, I think that's 7-9. What do you have for the Panthers?
I do agree with you on their schedule. That's the kindest thing to the Panthers as they finish out Lions, Vikings, Broncos, and Washington, and then they, as you aptly pointed out, Rutledge, finishing the season with the Saints. As the Saints could very well have their position. I'm not ready to throw another pick here. Saints could very well have their position wrapped up by week 17. So you're resting starters, and I see 6-10 for the Panthers for sure.
Okay, so we're split on a game here. Which game? So if I have 7-9, you have 6-10, but still below 500. All right.
Yep.
So now
One
we have
game off.
our number 2 team in the NFC South. And who are we saying is the number 2 team in the South right now, Connor?
You know, I mean, you got to say the Bucs are the number 2 team in the South. They just lost to the Saints for the second time. You know, and it's really interesting to just try to understand what this team will be. You know, especially now that AB is not just going to have his first week, but continue to be into the mix. And there's going to be more to overcome for the Bucs. So there seems to be more questions than answers as it comes to the Bucs. This is, as I mentioned, the second time that they lost to the Saints and have the Saints score a lot of points. You know, the talking heads would always talk about how good the Bucs defense is. They've been struggling, you know, and I think that there are just a lot of questions as it comes to the Bucs personnel-wise. Now, out of their remaining games, they have 3 road games, and 2 of those are in domes. Tom Brady will not play a cold weather game until maybe a late season, you know, playoff game at, say, a Seattle or even a Green Bay, depending on how the schedules work out. So there is that to consider, but Tampa Bay definitely laid an egg this weekend. What do you think, Rutledge?
With Tampa Bay, I'm gonna say abandoned ship. There is holes in the pirate ship in Tampa. You need to, if you bought into Tampa Bay this year, you need to walk away. I think I called them a bust earlier this season when we did our Bust Must Trust at the beginning of our show. But Tom Brady, when the headlines all about your team say Tom Brady, worst game of his career, there's something going on. He's not meshing well into their system. They keep trying to build this roster. I watch a lot of Bucs film, and you keep seeing Tom Brady make throws that would have gone in hands and gone for touchdowns in New England, and he just keeps playing like he's New England. So they have a very inconsistent offense. You know, they dominated the Packers, but they struggled against the Giants. Their defense has only had 13 sacks for the entire year, and I really think Tom Brady's still looking for Julian Edelman. Yeah, they'll add AB, but Tom Brady's not a get a really fast receiver, get them to run long routes and throw bombs like even Jameis Winston when he could see, you know, when he was seeing his way to touchdowns instead of interceptions was. So
except when Tom Brady had Randy Moss. That was
except for when Tom Brady had Randy Moss. There was that one time he had Randy Moss and that worked. And then outside of that, Conner is lighting it up and is yet to throw to Julio Jones, I think, today.
Oh, he just had a catch.
Okay, he just had a catch. The score,
make the playoffs, but
I think the storyline about how it's going to come more and more that this team, Bill.com on an article he wrote about the Saints-Bucks game. This ballyhooed Sunday nighter was a one-sided wall. They are incredible. I wish they had more sacks, but they got a lot going on. Connor, what do you think of the Saints with your touchdown?
You know, oh yeah, you know, you don't have to get sacks to have your D-line be impactful in the game, right? In terms of their game against Tampa Bay, just when you thought that the New Orleans Saints were kind of, you know, just going to be another regular season wonder, I'm going to quote another, not article, but an interview from the movie Dumb and Dumber. You go do something like that and totally redeem yourself. Michael Thomas was back. It was clicking. It was rocking. It was rolling. Very excited for the Saints as they finish out their season now with Michael Thomas. It's going to make the NFC South very interesting. And you know, it's going to give Tom Brady in Tampa, I think it's going to give him some real trouble to not just be running roughshod over the competition at the end of the year because he's so used to playing in the weak division of the AFC East. So with that, Rutledge, what do you think the final record for Tampa Bay is going to be?
Before I unveil the final record, I want everyone to circle on their calendars Sunday, the 20th of December, because Kansas City is going to play. They're going to play the Saints, and I think that could be a possible Super Bowl preview for everybody out there. But I have the Saints going 7-1. Their one loss is the Chiefs. They finished the year at 13-3.
There you go. You know, I'm going to say there's probably one more loss in there than you think, Rutledge. So 12-4 for me for the Saints.
All right.
It's still very solid.
And that is everything that we have lined up for the NFC South. But now we're going to go into our second quarter State of the Shield, which is we're going to talk about playoff bubble. So we're going to go conference by conference. Connor, take us through the 3 teams we need to break down in the AFC.
In the AFC, and we've got seeds 6, 7, and 8, right? We got the Raiders, the Dolphins, and the Browns. And in terms of the Raiders, and I'll just share some of my thoughts on these 3 teams, Rutledge, and you can go. In terms of the Raiders, it was John Gruden has done a really nice job. This roster isn't great. They've got some good players, but just as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, the coach is the real CEO of the team, right? It's not the quarterback. John Gruden has really done a nice job with this Raiders team. And when you look at the remaining teams, I'm looking at young quarterbacks, and the Raiders play Drew Lock twice. They play Sam Darnold, Tua, and then one more game against Herbert. I think that the Raiders can get into the playoffs, even with a 17 playoff, let alone an 18 playoff. Next up, you got the Dolphins. Dolphins have won 4 in a row. They have a chance to make that 7 in a row with the Chargers, Broncos, and the Jets coming up. And as I tend to say, I always see the Dolphins as a team playing hard. I think they're going to do pretty well. And the Browns, I'm going to keep on my Browns take. Baker Mayfield is pressing into quicksand. As the spotlight gets bigger, that's just not boding well for the end of the season. Baker pressing, no OBJ. Browns will stay on the outside looking in. So what do you think about some of these AFC teams, Rutledge?
Oh, in Vegas, we're going to say, which I think you and I one day should go to a Raiders game in Vegas, Connor. That could be fun. I'm going to say just win, baby. They just need to just win. I think that their schedule is so manageable with the way that John Gruden has Derek Carr looking like a high-level performer. They could win out for the rest of the year and gain a little bit of some playoff seeding. They need to get better at scoring, though. Their scoring differential for points for and against is they're -11, so they need to start lighting it up. But I have them 100% getting into the playoffs. Miami, like you said, the win streak, the 4 games, Tua is growing, getting comfortable. I know that you say this team plays hard. I call them the Island of Misfit Toys. We love them all. We all love the Island of Misfit Toys, but I see Miami getting in the playoff. And then Cleveland, I'm not a Browns fan, but Cleveland, I am begging you to make this work. You need to learn how to score, and you need to learn how to win on the road, but your schedule that you have is such a gift. The only thing that Cleveland has hard for the rest of the years, it's not winnable, is the Ravens. But I'm just saying on our show, Cleveland, don't do this to us. I'm not going to go so bold as to place money on it, but I'm watching you. You need to get this. They just need to get it together, Connor. They have everything in the right place. I know no OBJ, but just this is the year that they have to make it work. I'm just kind of disgusted, a little bothered by the Browns.
Do you think they're in or out of the playoffs?
I hate to say it, and I didn't even write it in my pre-show notes, but I knew you were going to ask me. I think I'm going to take them squeaking it in.
Whoa. Is this with a 17 playoff or an 8? So are they going to be the 7 seed, or do they have to squeak in on an 8 seed?
I think they can, with the other 2 teams going in, it's going to be like they're going to lose to a tiebreaker contingency, but they'll be an 8 seed. So if we have an 18 playoff, they're in the playoff. With 7, they sit out. But let's move on to the NFC. Let's move on to talking about the NFC. In our 2-minute warning.
Let's do some NFC. Third pick of the half. There we go. Little 2-minute warning. NFC, let's do it. Cardinals, Rams, and Bears. Cardinals 6 seed, Rams 7 seed, Bears 8 seed. I think, the Cardinals, they did just have that tough loss into a second start. But a lot of fun, good game. Their schedule, here's the hard part about the Cardinals. Although the teams on their schedule might not have the best record, they are playing really hard. Here's the theme tonight, right? You got teams that play hard that just, can sneak a win here and there, right? I think the Patriots, Giants, and the Eagles, yet again, not the best total record, but man, those are not easy outs. It's a fringe playoff in team, but more of a 7/8 seed than than the 6th seed that they're currently in. I think for the Rams, yet again at number 7, not too many gimmies outside of the Jets, right? We're going to be talking about Seattle versus LA here shortly. The only thing seeming to keep them into the playoffs will be play by the poor teams beneath them. I'm going to have the Rams out. I am now officially bailing on the LA Rams. But one of the teams that will get in over the Rams, that is currently underneath the Rams, will not be the Chicago Bears at number 8. I watched that game, really from start to finish on Sunday. I had a lot of faith in Matt Nagy. Man, Nick Foles just is not the guy to take them to the promised land. That's for sure. They got too many problems. Bears outside. What about you, Rutledge? Close us out here in this half.
So for Cardinals, I'm going to say my take on the Cardinals, and I don't know if this is the Seahawks fan in me or not, but I don't like the Cardinals. Yeah, they can score points, and they have the second lowest points allowed in the NFC, but they lose close games. I think we have a bad thing of a media world to like teams that look cool, but they don't win. So the Cardinals have turned into like the new Houston Texans of the back half of the season where we just pay attention. I think they have no real pressure. I still don't see them making it. I think they're out of the playoffs. I know you picked 3 NFC West teams for contention in the playoffs. The Rams are kind of an enigma. The Rams are undefeated at home, but they can't really win on the road. Their next upcoming schedule is tough. They play the Seahawks and Cardinals twice, plus the Bucks. So I think they have to get that together and not just win in California. I think it's a coin flip for the Rams if they're on their way in or way out. I think I take in if I have the Cardinals going out. The Bears, I know you said you watched that game, but I think you're going to appreciate this, is that I read on Twitter from Chicago, the Bears fan base is called Matt Nagy, is Adam Gase in a Gucci belt.
Nice.
They have a Super Bowl caliber defense, but they have the ultimate dude you call to show up at the party late. And that would be Nick Foles. He's going to come to the party. That doesn't mean you want him at the party, but he's going to be there. He's not the one you wanted to be there, but he's going to be there. And I see them, even though they have this amazing defense that stops everybody, I see them offensively playing their way out of the playoffs. So I don't really have these bubble teams doing much.
Wow. So a lot of teams jumping out over your NFC playoff teams here.
Exactly.
So as we finish out the half here, any thoughts? I know this was a previous halftime hot take that we had. Any thoughts in terms of who is going to end up being the number 1 overall pick? And then not in terms of college, but who will be selecting the number 1 overall pick?
I'm still going with the Jets. Even though we've talked to all these teams, I still think the Jets are. I don't even know. I guess they're still shut down for the year, but the Jets are there's the 4th pick. We just keep pounding, baby.
So you're going Jets. All right. Good to know. I'm starting to come to the Jets as well in my selection here. So we have finished the first half. Matty Ice is ice cold for those watching or listening. Carolina is up 14-7. And just as a reminder, we are on YouTube, we are on Twitch, and we are on podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. So we really enjoy and we appreciate all of our viewers and our watchers out there. Invite your friends. And if you know us personally, send us a message, some sports topics that you want us to talk about. We would love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to do that. And also, if you're watching this live tonight, I know we lost our video feed for a little bit there, so respond back if you got our video feedback. If you're still out there watching this, we had some technical difficulties during that same thing. But we're back and we're live and we're paused and we're ready to go into halftime hot takes now.
Halftime hot takes.
Basically, we just recorded some great podcast content, Connor. It's going to be fantastic.
Hey, that's why they pay us the big bucks, right?
That's why they pay us the big bucks to be on Anchor.
Yes. So, Rutledge, what's our halftime hot take for tonight?
Our halftime hot take for tonight is who is going to win the AFC South. So who do you have and why?
AFC
or the NFC South. I'm sorry.
For who's going to win the NFC South, but I'm going Saints. Right? They've already lost to the Bucks twice, or they've already beat the Bucks twice. My apologies. So the Bucks not only have to finish the season one game ahead of the Saints, but I don't see the Bucks doing it. I see that at best the Bucks can tie the Saints record, which obviously the Saints will have the tiebreaker. But Saints will win the NFC South. What about you?
I am totally taking the Saints. I think they're going to run away with the show. I think they are on a non-stop train as they're going to take the division. Michael Thomas is back. Alvin Kamara proves his value. Drew Brees is really sort of making that ride off into the sunset play. I think Brady's still going to keep trying to play like he's in New England and struggle. As I said before, the Madden theory does not build real-life teams. So I have the Saints.
And there we go. That's our halftime hot takes. Take that to the bank.
And we're going back in there, and we're going to get into our second half to talk about our favorite topic being college football. So Connor and I both agree on the top 3 in the nation. So Connor, what is our official Friends Stream Sports top 3 for college football right now after Clemson lost to Notre Dame?
As it stands, we both have Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2, and Notre Dame number 3. But there's something missing with that, Rutledge.
And that's definitely number 4. So I think, as we sort of discussed, Bama and Ohio State have been running the table. Even though we were all poo-pooing on Big Ten being in there, I have not seen enough eye test teams that I think could beat Ohio State if ranked enough. And then, of course, number 3 is Notre Dame. Connor, let's get yours. Who is your number 4?
It pains me to say it, Rutledge, but I gotta say Florida, right? I don't call me the really mad, upset Florida State fan that is still a little salty at Jimbo Fisher. I don't think A&M's for real. I don't see any of these teams on the outside looking in being for real. I think Clemson. The fact I did call it, by the way, and Clemson were only slipped to 4. I don't think that should be the case. I think as it stands right now, Florida Gators should be number 4. They overcame. Here's an interesting stat. They gave Kirby Smart his first loss as a head coach in which a Kirby Smart coach team scored a defensive touchdown. Right. So you always talk about turnovers. Not only did Georgia have a couple turnovers, or I guess just that one, but scored a touchdown immediately off of that. They went back and they showed their superior personnel to Georgia. They worked a very suspect defense, which was supposed to be good, came out being very suspect, and we know that Dan Mullen can put together a game plan. But not only did he do that, but he just showed that he's got better players than Georgia, which they're as good as everyone's saying that they are, is definitely a real feat. So Florida Gators, number 4. What about you, Rutledge? What do you think?
I'm also going to take the Florida Gators at number 4, and I will sort of give it to them why. I think that loss they had earlier to Texas A&M proved it's that college playoff committee lost at the right time. They definitely lost when they needed to lose to just sort of get it over with and take off into the season. I think losing when Clemson did, obviously you have Trevor Lawrence has got coronavirus, so it's not going to be held against them. But I think that we're going to sort of ignore that Florida's a one-loss team. I think Texas A&M, the reason they're ranked there, I'm with you. I don't believe in them. I think they're ranked just to boost up Florida so this way people can believe in Florida more often. They made Georgia look lost. One of the trainers at the gym I go to, he's a huge Georgia fan, and he's been questioning Kirby Smart and his coaching staff, and a lot of people are sort of rumbling about that with that big loss. I think, though, for Florida to make it, they're going to have to run the table. I think Mullen's going to have to dial it up and keep scoring lots of points. I will say that I, out there in the world, called Florida's offense a little boring. But to which I stand corrected after 44 points against Georgia, so I apologize. But I really think Florida has to look impressive to make it, because they're going to still have to play Bama in the championship game, and we have to see what Clemson and Notre Dame look like down the stretch. So I definitely have Florida all the way.
Fun fact, before I ask you a quick hypothetical, Matt Ryan in this video game's only incompletions have been interceptions. So that's a fun fact.
That is a fun fact. You are playing in rare form. Look at him go.
So I would say this in terms of Florida's offense, and it's why I felt so strongly about thinking that the Gators were number 4. This is going to sound odd. This might sound odd, but the fact that they kept on running the same play over and over and over against Georgia, I did find a little boring, but it worked. So you keep doing it. You keep doing the things that work. They kept on taking that running back and just wheeling him out and really trying to make those Georgia linebackers work. But we do know Dan Mullen can coach and can coach really well. But if one play works, why do you worry about running something else? But Rutledge, let me ask you this. If Florida gets to the SEC championship game, which is kind of what we're thinking, and they lose to Alabama, would they still be a number 4 type team, or would we look to the whatever the turnout of the ACC championship game be in terms of the final playoff team?
I really think that's going to be a result of score. So with that situation, I also think Florida going in against Bama is going to be like a 14-point underdog. Florida's not going to run into Bama and be like, it's not going to be a 3-point game like when Georgia played Bama in the SEC a couple years ago. I really see it that it's going to be, even with Florida at number 4, it's going to be whoever, and this is assuming Ohio State remains undefeated and wins the Big Ten, it's going to be whoever keeps it close against Alabama, or if Clemson returns to the way they were. Now, if Clemson's is still falling off because Trevor Lawrence doesn't play defense, then I really think that opens up the picture to everything. But I think that whoever goes has to at least make it into the college football, into their conference championship.
So,
Connor, who do you have?
You're saying if Trevor Lawrence and Clemson, presumably getting to the ACC championship game, if he doesn't look good and Clemson doesn't look good, they should still stay out. That's what you're saying. If
he does get there, and they lose the ACC championship game, Clemson should stay out. If Clemson runs the table from here on out and wins everything, they should be in. But if they look like they're falling apart, then they should go out. Oh, no. Pick in the end zone by Conner.
It's a well-timed interception.
As usual, going into the fourth quarter, it gets interesting.
So, yeah, no, I agree. I think that Clemson, they've got to run the table. A 2-loss Clemson team just won't get into the playoffs. Got to give it to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I know everyone's talking about how Clemson, didn't have Trevor Lawrence and a few defensive players. Notre Dame left about 3 touchdowns out on the field. There was a few times that Notre Dame was driving in the red zone and just couldn't convert. And I am sure when they've turned the film on that they were kicking themselves, kind of saying, "Good grief, what is going on around here?" So definitely, everyone's going to talk about Clemson, but I think Notre Dame played a really strong game, and I think, assuming that Notre Dame plays Clemson again, the only other opportunity for that not to be the case would probably be a Miami. I think Notre Dame's still going to give Clemson everything that they want, and then some. So, could be interesting, but as you and I are both in agreement right now, the number 4 team in the land is the Florida Gators, and hopefully they break our kiss of death.
Oh, no, who knows? Now that we've given them the number 4 seed, it could be the kiss of death for the end of the Florida Gators. We'll see, because if Florida can't go there, I just don't feel like Texas A&M should. So, still a wild college football season, still a wild playoff.
So let's Rutledge. Let's get into the fourth quarter here. Speaking of playoffs, there's more than two conferences in the country, unfortunately. So let's talk about kind of our big, overarching, broad topic here that we want to bring up, and that's how unbalanced everything feels in the conferences, right? The fact that Clemson and Ohio State and Alabama feel a whole lot closer than, say, Clemson and Georgia Tech, or Ohio State and Iowa, or Alabama and, we'll say, Missouri. I don't want to go down to Vanderbilt, but a Missouri. Any thoughts just how unbalanced everything is feeling this year in college football?
12. I count right now, before I halfway through conferences, at least 12 teams with one win or less in college football. And I just want to sort of call out, and of course we could say, well, it's academics, right? You know, there's an admissions problem. But I think it all comes down to our favorite topic of, it's three main things in college football. It is number one, it is admissions. Do you get the right players to go into your school? It's recruiting, and then it is definitely tenure. Are you selling the right message? I want to sort of call attention to, not, of course, you think the low performing programs are down, like UTEP, not UTEP, but Old Dominion has only played one game, they've lost. Florida International is 0-3, right? University of Massachusetts is 0-3, but let's talk about Penn State is winless, and let's talk about how Michigan is down, and let's talk about how Vanderbilt has only won one game. And I think it just really comes into that the state of recruiting is just so unbalanced. So Connor, you played football. What's it like to go out and be recruited to be a college athlete?
Well, first off, great interception for pick number 5 by Matt Ryan. Good grief. Being recruiting it was pretty fun. Me playing Division III, obviously a little bit different than the Division I piece. But I'll share something from my high school days when I was playing center. I went with our quarterback, who was actually getting recruited by Ole Miss at the time, and we went to the Ole Miss camp, and I did my thing on the O-line, and I was a 5'10" offensive lineman, so the best I could get is some guy patting me on the back of the head saying, "Oh, great effort." I wasn't playing football at Ole Miss. But when you go to those camps, the differences between being somebody who's being recruited and not being recruited, right? Getting to sit down with the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss, because I was with my buddy at the time, and let us never forget that Ed Orgeron was the guy who recruited Matt Leinart when he was at USC. So that's a real powerful thing for a 17-year-old when you're just got done at camp. You're at this big time school, and you're touring the facilities. You're sitting one-on-one in the war room, or effectively one-on-one in the war room with the coach, saying all that. I think that is very, very, that's powerful stuff. Now, these coaches have a lot of time, or they don't have much time at all to spend on recruiting players. I remember when I coached at Southeastern University, right? When I turned on highlight tapes, I mean, if the first 3 plays didn't wow me from a highlight tape, I was moving on to the next one. When I was talking to student athletes, you could tell real quick, if this was going to be a thing or not. So it's a push pull. You gotta be able to be a good judge of character real quick. You got to be able to take a lot of variables real quick, especially in this day and age where quarterbacks can play. High school quarterback could mean a safety in college or a receiver in college and things like that. So recruiting is it's really hard to do, and it's so important, and that's why if you're not a head coach, a lot of times you do hear about the, quote, great recruiters of college football.
I think as it comes into, here we go, almost another pick, but a good swab by Luke Kuechly for the Panthers. Connor, I think you're hitting it 100%, and thank you for the perspective on what it was like to go through that recruiting stuff and what it's like to recruit. I think something we don't talk about now is that the state of, and maybe this has been the same forever, but something we don't think about as fans is you have to think about the college experience for the player. So I want to call out and look at I want to call out about a couple schools. So you're going to have your players that want to make it to the NFL and want to do and be big things. So they're going to hit up what programs right now? Easy. You want to go somewhere where you're seen on national TV, you get playing time and win championships, you need to go to Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. Maybe like an LSU if you're a recent recruit. But outside of that, where are you going to go? Because if you go somewhere kind of mediocre, you're not going to make it. I want to talk about some schools that I think it also comes into. We don't think about student life, right? What's it like to go to that school? So here's one team. I'm going to name two schools, and I don't know if you know their records, but there's two schools in two very distinctive locations. The Coastal Carolina Chanticleers and the Kansas Jayhawks. Do you know Coastal Carolina and Kansas's records, Connor?
Coastal Carolina has won all of their games, if I'm not mistaken, and the Jayhawks haven't won any games, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. And even though Les Miles is in Kansas, if you have to think about, if you're 17, 18 years old, would you rather be hanging out on the outskirts of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, if you're a mid-tier recruit who's not going to get on to Clemson? Or would you rather go and pick up and try to play for a big school and move to Kansas? So what would you rather do, Connor?
Well, you know, let's not totally throw the Jayhawks under the bus. You are 45 minutes away from Kansas City.
Right.
But, you know, there are so many things within consideration, right? Programs like Kansas that are, well, really, you know, programs like Coastal Carolina that are closer to Kansas than Coastal Carolina being closer to Clemson in terms of quality. And I put that order in there on purpose. You know, they're going to have a lot of guys who are kind of snubbed, right? So I think that's important to consider, important to be in consideration. You know, for a 17-year-old who spends a lot of college a lot of the times during the winter months when it's cold, if you're going just based off the weather, I'm going Myrtle Beach. But you know, the recruiting fertile grounds there as well, I think also bode well for Coastal Carolina within that. So, any thoughts just in terms of location for you, Rutledge?
If I was me and I was playing football, I would, you know, unless I was a die-hard person who loved the Jayhawks or grew up in the Midwest and loved that environment, if I was recruited by those two schools, I would play the smaller school and go to Coastal Carolina. I know that I can say from a smaller school, Georgia Southern in the Sun Belt Conference, if there's one thing that key interception on the two-point conversion.
Go on for your small school.
If there's one thing for a small school, I know at Georgia Southern we talk about tradition and winning a lot, whereas we don't talk about the other parts of the experience when we recruit our recruits, and we try to pitch the small man is valuable. So I would definitely take the Coastal Carolina. Conway, South Carolina, where it is actually a pretty cool area. You're not too far. Yes, you're close to Kansas City, but playing football at a basketball school, kind of like going to a Duke if you play football, you're going, in my opinion, for, you know, possibly the long term, unless you're someone who just didn't get picked up by a large school. But that's sort of that's recruiting, and I think that's all we kind of have to say about that. And we're going to actually segue into another sport because, as we like to say in Orlando, a miracle happened. What happened, Connor? A miracle has happened.
Orlando City is playing in the MLS playoffs.
Oh, how does it feel to say that out loud?
I still can't believe it, Rutledge. I was at their first MLS game when we filled the bowl. I was at their I've been to many other games. I went to not just Fill the Bowl number 1. You and I sat together at Fill the Bowl number 2.
Yep.
We've laughed. We've cried. We've thrown things at projectors. We've thrown projectiles at people.
We've thrown ourselves at each other.
We've thrown ourselves at each other, and Orlando City is playing playoff soccer. How do you feel about that, Rutledge?
Oh, I am all in. As we hit a timeout. Are you calling timeout?
I am calling timeout here.
Oh, preserving some game clock. Okay. We're all in. We're all excited. I can't wait. I know that at the start of this season we were kind of on the fence. I want to tell the story as we close of my very first Orlando City game. So this is in the opening beginnings of Connor and mine's friendship. And Connor calls me up and says, "Hey, Rutledge, I have this extra ticket to this soccer game. It's free. Do you want to go?" And once again, the slant proves that it always works. So Connor and I go to the Citrus Bowl. We walk into the stadium. We drive up on the 408. You see all the banners across the Citrus Bowl. And we kind of finagle our way into the supporters section. And I'm standing there, and a guy looks at me, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, is this like Lion whatever, or is this like Ruck a lot of noise?" He goes, "You mean Iron Lion Firm or Ruckus?" Like, yeah. He goes, "Well, this is Iron Lion, and we've been here since the beginning. So who are you?" It's like, "I'm here for my first game." "You're here for your first game? Oh my God, bro, welcome. Are you having a good time? Vamos, Orlando. So glad you're here." And then, of course, that game ended in 0-0. I don't even remember who we played, but there was something about that camaraderie and the excitement of the sport and being there that I've become a fan for life. And even though Georgia gained a soccer team, I bleed purple and white here in the Sunshine State. So, Connor, you really made an influence.
Wonderful. So glad to hear. And, you know, you and I, Rutledge, both at the beginning of this season, we didn't have too high hopes here as we close out about Orlando City. You know, I do think if I were to make the bona fide soccer take right here, I do think that Orlando City has the opportunity for a decently deep playoff run. By decently deep, I mean beat New York City, you know, depending on who they play next. You know, maybe win 2 games, but you know you've got a team that has already played in the championship game of one tournament this year, and you know MLS is back. You've got Nani, who's played in Champions League finals, but not only that, you've got a lot of really quality role players that I think that we just didn't know enough about to really appreciate them. Midfielder Junior Urso is going to be really critical to Orlando City's success. Obviously, Michel Pereira, but you know, what's been interesting about Orlando City is for so long it was always, you know, the offense is going to be able to score some goals. What is the defense going to be able to do? And now this team has really nice balance. This team can win a 4-3 game. This team can eke out 1-0 in extra time. So I do think that, although not a favorite, I definitely think that Orlando City is going to be very, very dangerous going into the playoffs. And you know, one win is definitely not a stretch in any sense. So vamos Orlando! Can't wait to give more soccer takes here as Friends Stream Sports continues.
As we close our show, I do want to say that in our previous topic of recruits, our viewer Stever said that if he was a recruit, he would personally not be taking a single season to heart and saying that Coastal Carolina is hot, but not telling how long that's going to last, but he would definitely consider the academic aspect, which is getting the degree holds more weight. So I think that takes that Steven would go to Kansas. You know, degrees are something, because not everyone can go pro. I think there's an Enterprise commercial about that.
Kansas does have a good architecture program, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go. So move to the Midwest and get architecture. Well, as we close out, Connor, thank you for helping the Carolina Panthers score 28 points this evening. I went -1 for rushing yards, but I had 5 takeaways, so we'll settle on that. How do you feel as well? I don't know how you should feel right now.
Matt Ryan is going to have a great completion percentage, but yes, through 5 picks. I feel like we should move on to picks. Speaking of picks, let's talk picks.
All right, so our first pick is we're going to continue following the very hot Indiana Hoosiers as they are playing the Michigan State Spartans, and Indiana's a 7.5 favorite. Connor, I'm going to take Indiana because I'm just riding the lightning here. Who are you taking?
You know, Michigan State just got blown out by a very average Iowa team. Indiana just smoked a pretty average Michigan team. Although Michigan's quarterback did play at Olympia High School, shout out Orlando, Indiana Hoosiers by 3 touchdowns.
Okay, well, that 3 touchdowns, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
I think after this week, if they do that 3 touchdowns, people are going to take Indiana finally serious in the football realm. We
At
are
least more serious than they were.
at least more serious than they were. We're going with a big game in the NFC. We have the Seattle Seahawks, who are starting to worry me, versus the Los Angeles Rams, and the Rams are a 1-point favorite. Conner, who are you taking in this?
The Rams need this game more than Seattle, but the Seattle Seahawks' pride is pretty hurt after what they did to Buffalo. I think it's going to be a ton of points. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and I think that the Seahawks are going to win.
I am going to hope that the only thing that's good at Los Angeles is that Aaron Donald has 99 times that he does not get into the backfield over this game and does not make a huge impact. Russell Wilson looks a little sort of shaken. Hopefully the run game bounces back, but I take Seattle. I think the 1-point line is just people are taking too much out of Seattle in this Buffalo loss. Our last game here is 2 rookie quarterbacks hit the gridiron in Florida, and we have Justin Herbert versus Tua Tagovailoa as the Chargers come down to Miami and play the Dolphins. Conner, close us out. Who's your final pick?
Clash of the rookie QBs. As I've said pretty consistently, the Dolphins play hard and just never seem to quit. I'm going Miami to win and cover.
I am also going to go Miami to win and cover. I think the coaching staff is really and Tua are sort of just a match made, and coaches make quarterbacks. The coach is the CEO of the operation. So overall, I see Miami having that getting there. Also, thank you, Steven. Steven reminded us that Matt Breida the Cheetah from Georgia Southern, go Eagles, is a Miami Dolphin. So Miami Dolphins #1. You still haven't listened to that Miami Dolphins fight song, have you, Conner?
Not yet.
Oh, I think it's out there for you. I don't know if it's on iTunes, but it's too good. So our viewers pick Indiana, Seattle, and Miami. And remember, for all those listening to us or anywhere, it is Tuesday. We started at 8 o'clock. If you come out and interact with us live, we want to see you. We want to hear from what you have to say. So come join us live on Twitch every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Conner, what do you want to say to the people before we sign off tonight?
Thank you.
Oh, that's very touching, Conner. That's
yes. Hey, let's go. Let's keep it going. Let's finish out this year strong. Head into Thanksgiving. A lot of good sports. Vamos Orlando.
Vamos Orlando in the playoffs. Thank you for coming out. My name's Rutledge.
My name's Conner.
And we're Friends Stream Sports. Have a good night.